So we got a bunch of new information for Assassin's Creed Origins yesterday that I didn't actually cover. It was a lot of things that were summarized from the various pieces of gameplay by Access the Animus on their Facebook page, and it's all summed up really nicely. It talks about all the quests in the game and various small details that kind of make things a whole lot more realistic, and just the small details in AC Origins, I've noticed a lot of things are really nice. Now I know I did say that I was going to be doing a breakdown of the trailer, and at this point I don't think it's needed. It's not a long trailer, there's not much to talk about. In that video that I made last night, I hadn't watched the trailer in that much depth, and after looking at it a second time, there's not really much to break down in that trailer whatsoever, so I thought I'd bring you guys this information today. It's going to be a lot of reading off of this series of Facebook posts that Access the Animus posted, but it is pretty interesting information nonetheless, guys, and it is worth listening to. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight into this quick news update. I just want to start off by saying there's a tiny bit of information here that you've already heard in the last video, but if you didn't happen to watch my last video, then obviously it's in here for you guys. But again, it is a roundup of the information from Eurogamer and the Ubi blog, so there's bound to be a tiny bit of duplication in terms of news, but it's fine, it doesn't matter. Anyway, first of all, one of the targets that Bayek will have to face, and member of the Order of the Ancients, is known as the Scarab. His preferred method of killing involves burying people up to their necks in the desert and leaving them to die. So obviously this is another example of one of the many violent methods of killing people in Assassin's Creed Origins, because there's quite a bit of violence in this game. It's a whole lot darker, and this is definitely showing that. One of the subquests will involve an old couple weeping by the side of the road, who will ask Bayek to retrieve the bodies of workers from a field overrun by murderous hippos. That's pretty insane. Loads of hippos overrun a field. There's going to be so many quests like this in Assassin's Creed Origins that we're going to be able to find that are really unique and offer an experience that we've never seen in Assassin's Creed before. The highlight of the preview was a lost city called Letopolis, with massive stone edifices and gleaming villas that had been dug out of the sand by teams of workers hoping for a new life. The skill that allows to tame animals works as follows. Bayek has to put them to sleep with a sleep dart, which are another skill tree that has to be unlocked, and then tame them with the appropriate skill. After that, the animals will follow Bayek. We talked about this a bit in the last video, and there's a bit of gameplay in the Stealth of Assassin's Creed Origins video on Ubisoft's channel, and it's very evident that you obviously have to put them to sleep first, because it shows Bayek throwing a bunch of knives or sleep darts at these animals, and then it allows him to tame them. There will be a skill called Eagle Harass, which will have Senu attack or distract enemy guards. Again, this was something that we discussed in yesterday's video, and it seems like a relatively useful thing, depending on how much I use Senu, that is, because obviously if we get into the game and Senu isn't that useful whatsoever, which I can't imagine she wouldn't be, then obviously it wouldn't be a very useful perk, but I can see it being quite handy in stealth situations. According to the source, in the build that was played, Origins' main story missions were pegged across a fairly steep leveling curve, with the focus on the player to undertake side quests or other world activities for XP and loot in order to get ready for the next major story beat. I think this is great because a lot of RPGs nowadays, namely The Witcher 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, and other games of that similar genre, don't really encourage side quests. Obviously they're there in the world, and you'll probably even stumble across side quests and do them without even realizing, but they don't necessarily encourage players to do them. You can play the whole of these games without doing side quests, and that's not necessarily not the case with AC Origins. Obviously you could play the whole game without doing side quests, but it is encouraged, which I think is a great system to have in an RPG game, considering there are so many diverse stories and so much content in the open world of ancient Egypt that Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed team obviously want you to be able to experience. So the fact that it encourages you to do this, pushes you towards those side quests, I think that's a very good feature to have. So this second batch of news is coming from PC Games, Eurogamer, and Games Radar, and it's got a lot of interesting stuff in here, so let's get straight into it. For those in search of a more complex challenge, it will be possible to choose between 3 levels of difficulty: easy, normal, and hard, which is a novelty for the series. The loot system will be disconnected from the level of difficulty, and the player will not gain more experience by increasing the difficulty, while the arena, which represents the most difficult mode for the combat system and the fights, at the highest level will unlock rewards that players will not be able to win otherwise. This is insane. There's difficulty levels for Assassin's Creed. This is something we've never seen in the game before, which I think is really cool. I think it's great. Personally, I usually play games in the highest difficulty. I want the hardest challenge there is, so it feels like I'm actually overcoming some form of challenge, so I'm definitely going to be playing it on hard difficulty. Many people could argue, oh, how is there a difficulty setting when you're in the Animus? But I reckon it's more you choose the difficulty of the game before starting it, so in terms of the continuity of the story, that was always how difficult it was, and that's how it played out in real life. Whereas for someone else that chose an easy difficulty, that's how it is in their game. It really won't affect the canon whatsoever. It's more of a gameplay feature opposed to something that needs to be explained through lore. In terms of game duration, game director Ashraf Ismail said, "The game is really great. We have never been able to test all of the content in a single playthrough. I can say that my time was about 50 hours, during which I ended the main campaign, but I didn't even go near to completing the sub-quests." A quest shown at the preview event involved doing a detective work, analysing clues on a blood-soaked tower in order to work out what happened to the man who plunged from its balcony. This is another example of one of the darker side quests in the game, considering it's a guy that could have possibly committed suicide, but there's still a lot of blood. The bottom of the tower is like soaked in blood apparently, according to this. But did you guys hear that? 50 hours of playing the game, and Ashraf Ismail didn't even come close to completing the majority of the side quests, which is insane. It shows the sheer amount of content in this game. However, I do know that most casual players won't be able to play the game for 50 hours. They'll probably get through the main story, and then that'll be where they cut off their personal experience. However, I want to experience all the stuff there is in the game, and really, I wasn't expecting there to be this much content in Assassin's Creed Origins. 50 hours, doing a few side quests and also the main story? That's mental. Like, think how many side quests there's going to be in the actual world of ancient Egypt. It's already a huge world. There's so many possibilities for side quests, and I feel there's going to be so much content in this game. The game will feature a skill called Hunter's Instinct, which will allow Bayek to observe the path an enemy is taking. The Hidden Blade, Quiver, and Breastplate will have 10 tiers of improvement. Upgrading them will improve core base stats such as Bayek's overall health, damage potential, and carry capacity. So this confirms that carry capacity is in the game, much like any other RPG. You have an inventory in Assassin's Creed Origins, and this will get full up of resources and different carry weights and stuff like that, which is quite interesting, which means we won't be able to carry endless amounts of resources. We'll actually have to manage our inventory, which is just another one of the features of the RPG aspects in Assassin's Creed Origins. We can't just hold everything that we find. We have to store it away or drop it on the ground or something like that, or sell it. We can't just carry it all at once because we do have a carry capacity. According to the source, Bayek and Aya will have an adorable relationship. She teases him, he pulls faces to make her laugh, all while plotting the downfall of evildoers. Now, in Assassin's Creed, they've never really done relationships very well, apart from maybe Christina and Ezio, or Ezio and Sophia. Those relationships were done in a believable way. Also, maybe Maria and Altair. Those were good, well-done relationships because they were subtle. Whereas you have, you know, fucking Elise and Arno and Evie and Henry Green. Those were cliche as fuck and weren't representative of actual relationships, how you'd expect them to be. And they were just generally really badly done on Ubisoft's part there. So hopefully they've got it right this time, you know, maybe with Bayek and Aya, because she's technically one of the main characters of the game, maybe she'll be a bit different, maybe they'll put more effort into crafting their relationship. And from what we've heard from other people, the characters in Assassin's Creed Origins are really, really likable, which is something that sounds great, and you actually care about the characters, and you want to know more about them, and, you know, it just sounds like a great thing, you know? You like the characters. That's something that we haven't been able to do in Assassin's Creed in a while, isn't it, guys? Haven't been able to like the characters because they've been really shit. Anyway, I can't wait to find more about Bayek and Aya's relationship. It sounds like it's going to be realistic to some extent, and who knows, maybe it will be an actually well done relationship in Assassin's Creed, and it won't be incredibly horrible and completely awful and cliche like Arno and Elise and Evie and Henry Green and most of the other relationships that we've seen in the Assassin's Creed franchise. The next chunk of news here actually comes from Center Strain, who was at the press event in San Francisco and was able to discuss it with Ashraf Ismail himself. So here, it says no information about the modern day will ever be released before the release of the game. And I'm so happy to hear this. I am so happy to hear that no modern day news whatsoever will be released before the release of the game, because that's exactly what I wanted. I genuinely I don't want anything about the modern day. I want it to be completely blind when I go in, and that's exactly what it's going to be like when the game comes out, so I'm super happy to hear that. There will be no social stealth in the game. It will not be possible to replay missions or quests. The team, though, is thinking of releasing this feature after the release of the game. Because of the new quest system, the game will not feature sequences and memories anymore. At this time, there is not going to be a New Game Plus mode for the game. So it will not be possible to replay missions or quests after you complete the game, which is kind of expected considering it is a quest-based system, and, you know, it's more of an RPG game. However, I do think it's good they're planning on releasing this feature after the release of the game, because it is something that many fans do enjoy in Assassin's Creed, and it's something that Assassin's Creed's always done, you know, replaying various different memories and missions is something that I don't think should be taken out of the game whatsoever. Although I am glad to hear they're doing away with the sequences and the memory structure and that. We don't need that anymore. We don't need memory sequences. It just really doesn't make an awful lot of sense. It's just an old tired system. You know, it worked in the other games, but we don't need it. We just need this quest-based system where you go to various different quests. Now, I know it makes sense in terms of the Animus with the memory sequences, but maybe this new Animus that we're in doesn't require memory sequences to be how the game is structured. Or maybe this isn't an official version of the Animus, which would kind of point towards the fact we're playing as assassins, or some form of rebel-type character that doesn't have the technology to have a proper Animus. The game will feature legacy outfits, and they will appear in a way that makes sense, so that it doesn't seem they're just tacked on. Assassin's Creed Origins will feature Easter eggs about the past Assassin's Creed games. These two are things that I'm very happy to hear about. We already knew that legacy outfits were going to be in the game, but this is something that I've talked about before, how Center Strain said that it will appear in a way that makes sense, that it doesn't seem like they're just tacked on. I'm not going to go ahead and say this means legacy missions, because I don't think they're doing legacy missions. If they do, though, that'll be great, but I don't think they're doing it. Maybe it's just some form of Easter egg. I actually, you know what? I have no idea. There's nothing I can fucking speculate that I can think about. I just don't know. What is this? What do you mean tacked on? What do you mean it makes sense? I don't know what's going on here. How the legacy mission is going to tie into lore. Anyway, enough of that. A small portion of naval combat will appear at the beginning of the game. That's pretty cool. So it means that naval won't be forced on you for the whole game, but there'll be a mission where it's required for you to do naval just so you can get involved in it. This is how I thought it would be, simply because why put a feature in the game if you're not going to include it somewhat in the main story? Because some people may not know this even feature in the game if you don't include it in the main game. And obviously, with the Black Flag team being the people that made it, it's going to be some good naval for sure. This next bit is pretty interesting. All outfits will be randomly generated. According to Center Strain, the player is going to get a style. That style outfit is going to be made up in different ways, different colors, different patterns, etc. Thus, going twice to the same vendor might not give access to the same exact outfits. They might be of the same style, but not exactly the same. There will be specific outfits though that cost a lot of money and will be unique. Everything about the outfits will be cosmetic only. What matters in terms of stats will be the crafted equipment, like Bayek's hidden blade, his braces, and his breastplate. That randomly generated stuff, what is going on there? Like, what is that? It's going to be randomly generated outfits that you get from each vendor? I think this is kind of cool, because it means when you go to a vendor, you can't expect the same shit to be there every single time. It means it's going to be something different, something randomly generated that you may not have seen before. Obviously, once you get towards the end game, you're going to have the majority of the outfits already, so it's not going to matter. But during the beginning of the game, it's going to spruce things up a little bit. Say if you go back to one of the vendors, they're going to have different outfits than they did before. So I think this is a good addition, and it keeps things all spruced up and nice when you're playing the game, so you never get bored, even in terms of the outfits that the vendors are going to be selling. One of the small details in Assassin's Creed Origins is that if Bayek wears an outfit that has a piece of cloth that covers his mouth, his voice will be muffled. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins, it seems like it's definitely doing a lot of the little things right, which many game developers forget about, such as his voice being muffled if he has a mask on, and that is just a really nice feature in the game. I can always appreciate the small details, and Assassin's Creed Origins, it does have a lot of them. Like, it's got quite a few of them. If you actually look at the smaller, finer details of the game, it's very in-depth, and this is another one of those things that just furthers the experience and the immersion, because, you know, he's got He's got a little mask over his mouth, just muffle his voice. Doesn't take that much effort, but it adds so much effect to the game. It's really, really nice, and I'm really happy they've done this. Lastly, today the PC requirements for Assassin's Creed Origins were released by Ubisoft, and it seems like it's looking pretty good for people that are playing it on PC, with relatively low requirements if you've got a good enough PC that can run the game. I know a lot of people in the comments section of my videos have been saying like, oh, RIP my computer, because this game looks great and it has like a really huge open world, and you don't need to worry anymore, because apparently the game is actually well optimized for PC, which is a new thing for Assassin's Creed, considering that Ubisoft never seem to make games that cater to a PC audience, and it seems like with the new team that's developing the game, they're focusing a lot more on making the experience better for PC players. Also, Ashraf Ismail has stated on Twitter that it's not a port and it's shipping on the same day as all other platforms. Now, we knew that the PC version of Assassin's Creed Origins was coming out on the same day, but it is really great to hear that it's not a port, so for all the people that are playing it on PC, you can have a proper dedicated experience, opposed to it just being a crappy console port that doesn't really work awfully well and doesn't have a lot of support. So everyone that's playing AC Origins on PC, you're going to have a good time, it's going to be well optimized, and it's not going to be a terrible console port. So this is really great news. Anyway, that is all of the news we have for today. A lot of people have already covered this news already, but I thank you for coming to my channel for watching it. I know a lot of people get their news from me and only me, which I think is really fucking awesome, considering there are better people for that who have more subscribers and make higher quality content. But I thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe for more gaming news content and reviews in the future. Be sure to go check out yesterday's video if you haven't already. It was a kind of a late upload, and there's a lot of relevant news in there that you guys need to hear, so I'll leave an end screen annotation to that. And hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.